Hey everybody, it is Rebecca from The Life of Rebecca over at Facebook. How you doing? It is October. It is Dysautonomia Awareness Month. Yay! So exciting, I know. If you've been following my blog, the link will be below in the description. Hi Tinkerbell. Yes, Tinkerbell's here. I've been doing a daily picture post, just talking about how it is to live with POTS. Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome, POTS, is my form of dysautonomia. And I have a question that was posed as part of the, daily posting, and I really couldn't figure out a good way of doing the video. So, not the video, but the picture. So I decided, let's do a video. Because I feel like it needs more of a description of like why and what all was going on during that timeline. The question was, how many years did it take for you to get a diagnosis? Now, I know some people who have a diagnosis within months. I know some people who've had to wait years and years and years for their diagnosis. I unfortunately fall into the years and years and years part. Growing up when I was a teenager, I had some symptoms. I had a lot of pre-sycope, being lightheaded, dizziness, things like that. And I could tell that my heart rate was really kind of fast. Mentioned it to my doctor. Doctors are like, oh, it's fine. You're just growing. It's hormones, whatever. You'll outgrow it. Okay, so I did the best I could during that time. Well, about 2006, I moved to a different state to be closer to my family. And before I did that, I worked in a hospital. I worked in the lab, and then I worked in the payroll office. When I worked in the lab, it became increasingly more common for me to have more tachycardia, more pre-syncope, and to the point where I was passing out. And it was very uncomfortable. Knowing that how fast your heart's going, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel natural. So I, went to the ER several times there, and, followed up with my doctor and everything like that. Same thing as always. It's normal. Everybody has PVCs. Everybody has this. Everybody has that. You're fine. I think one doctor proceeded to tell me that you're just super aware of what your body does, and don't be that way. Just, when you start, focusing on that, that's anxiety. That's a problem. And I'm like, okay. So 2013 happened, and I, when I moved states and everything, I worked for a big box retailer, and I worked in the back room. Part of my job in the back room was climbing ladders to count inventory and pull inventory out to go on the floor for sale. It was not uncommon for us to climb a 10-foot ladder, a 20-foot ladder, whatever, they had around there to get to where we needed to get to the items. And we would hang off the framework, which was a big no-no. But when you have to get to your items to count or to pull, you have to get there somehow. And if that, required us to kind of pull some aerial gymnastics, we did it. And I noticed I was having more issues with pre-syncope in my heart, of course. And anytime I had my hands above my head, which, of course, when you're counting and everything and you're, going off and everything, my hands were above my head a lot. But I noticed that was making my heart rate and my pre-syncope and dizziness and everything like that much more prevalent. But again, I adhered to what the doctors had told me years before. You're fine, everybody has this problem, go live your life. So I did. Well, I ended up coming down with strep throat, and when I went in to get antibiotics and everything, the nurse practitioner I was seeing was listening to my heart. And she's like, are you aware that your heart is beating differently? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been told it's normal. What do I do, She's like, no, this isn't a normal thing. So they ran an EKG. Of course, the EKG came out bad. And she hooked me up with a cardiologist. Cardiologist, within a couple of weeks, did all of her testing, trialed me on 2 different kinds of medications, and from there, we were still having the problem, and it was getting worse. It's like the medications didn't help. They made it worse. So I, got hooked up with an EP cardiologist, an electrophysiologist, and he was in the same office, and he was so sweet. And even he looked at it and he's like, you know what? You need an ablation. We need to go in there. We need to kill the areas that are malfunctioning and causing this, because not only is your electrical work showing there's a problem with your heart beating, but we can hear that there's a problem with your heart beating, and that's not good. I'm like, okay. So within a couple of weeks, I, had gone through the OR, did my ablation, and okay, this life will, be fine from now on. Within a month, I was back in the same situation I was in, and it was even worse because I was actively passing out. So 2 months after I had my first ablation, I had a second ablation to go in and again kill those areas that were, acting up, and hopefully regain my heart back to a normal rhythm and a normal speed because it sped. So we did all of that, and it was probably a few weeks after that I had to call off work because I was on the floor. And just anytime I would get up, anytime I would move positions and everything, it would wash all over me. My heart would race. My syncope was very active. I was dizzy. I was lightheaded. I could barely breathe because of everything. So we went back to him, and he's like, it just takes time. It takes time. Okay, fine. I can go with that. A little while later, though, we couldn't put up with it anymore. I say we. I was living with some friends at that time, and they were extremely helpful for me. They loaded me up, basically, put me in the car, and said, we're going to your doctor's office. They need to see you in this position. So off we went. And, of course, they did some orthostatics, which is basically taking your blood pressure in different positions, like sitting, laying down, standing, stuff like that. And I passed out in front of them because of it. I was always worried that I did something wrong. And, it's not my fault that my body's malfunctioning. But it worried me a lot when they're like, okay, we're putting you in the hospital now. Later that next day, I had a test called a tilt table test, or a TTT. And basically they strap you onto a bed and you're laying flat. And they check your blood pressure, they're checking your heart rate and everything like that. And they're slowly raising you up. Now, if your body is functioning normally, then when you go up in position, your body knows to constrict the blood in your legs and everything and push it back up to your brain so you don't pass out. My body, all of my blood still stays in my feet and I still pass out. So they put me on this table, they proceeded to do the test, and within 14 seconds I failed. They lowered me back down, I came to, and started crying immediately because they're like, you failed it. I told him I'm sorry, I'm sorry I failed it. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Failing this test is a good thing. This gave us a diagnosis. You have POTS. So back to my room I go. They start me on medication. They have me on IV fluids. And a couple days later, I was, free to get out of the hospital and go back home. I thought everything would be okay. I mean, I'm on medication. I've got different little exercises to do and stuff like that. No. My health continued to deteriorate, and it's at the place where it's been for the last couple of years now. I am disabled because of this. I'm in a wheelchair, partly because of this, partly because of my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome with my legs and my hips and my back. But, there we go. It took me 6 years to get a diagnosis of POTS. And all this time, like I said, I believed what my doctor told me. It's normal. Everybody has that problem. No, it's not normal. Not everybody has that problem. As for the ablations are apparently contraindicated, and we did not know this until after we had the two. thus making my heart rate even worse, because my autonomic system, the autonomic system that basically says, you know, you don't have to sit there and tell your heart to beat or tell your lungs to breathe. It does everything automatically for you. My autonomic system is very, very broke now. It was broke to begin with. It's very broken now. So I deal with that every day. But it took me 6 years. And within the 2 months I was seeing a cardiologist, I had a diagnosis. It's crazy to me that I know people who have gone 10, 15 plus without knowing what's wrong. And yeah, it just boggles my mind. Now, something that I did do that I don't know how many people do, second opinions are a good thing. I firmly believe in second opinions. I feel like I need someone to confirm what we've been dealing with, or, you know, give us another idea of what it might be. I was lucky enough to schedule in with Cleveland Clinic with their autonomic team there. I remember going into the appointment. I was kind of snippy because I was tired and everything else and didn't feel good from the travel, but they were like, well, let's do all of our testing, you know, and see what happens. Well, they went one step above. I have been diagnosed with hyperadrenic POTS, or hyperPOTS. During their tilt table test, wow, I cannot talk today. At one point, my blood pressure registered 0/0. So, yeah, we're POTSy. The doctor did not expect a positive POTS diagnosis, but in the end, she kind of had to eat her words and be like, yeah, you've got POTS. What they did after that, I don't really, you know, condone, because they basically said, okay, go home, you know, they're doing everything for you, you don't need us. So, I mean, I feel like I didn't get a whole lot out of that, but I did get confirmation, and that makes me feel better in a way. I know that sounds weird, but yeah, it was actually my third opinion, and I couldn't think of anybody else who could, or any other place that would give a better opinion than Cleveland Clinic. They're known for what they do there. So there we are. What does this mean for me daily? Daily I deal with having to load up on sodium, load up on fluids. I deal with a plethora of medications that help me manage my heart rate, help me manage my blood pressure, help me make sure that I've got enough blood going back to my brain. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. But I think I told somebody, I can't remember how I worded it, but I feel like I'm where I need to be in life, because I've learned something about myself through all this. I've learned the medical side of it, but I've also learned how strong I am and how strong you have to be when you're dealing with diagnosis like this. It's not super, super rare. It's just rarely diagnosed. Kind of like with EDS, and the doctors in med school always say, if you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Well, zebras make hoofbeats too. And that's the same situation in here. Nobody wants to go to automatically going, yeah, your autonomic system is fucked, and this is the best you got. Do I like that I have to live like this? No. Do I accept it? Yes. Do I feel like there's going to be something that comes out of it someday? Yes. A friend of mine once told me that someday you're going to deal with somebody with POTS, and you're going to know exactly how they feel. You're going to know exactly what they need and know exactly how to help them. I really believed it was going to be a complete cure. In fact, my one doctor told me, you know, you've got a year before you begin feeling any better. Well, that was 2013 and it's 2020 now. So we're going on 7 years. I'm not there. But I can help others. I can help others through these videos. I can help others through my blog, The Life of Rebecca. And you know what? That's good enough for me. Yeah. So, Tinkerbelle, you want to get up here? She's over here being moody. But on that note, speaking of needing medications, it's that time again. It's time to start fluids through my port for my heart rate and my blood pressure, and yeah, see what the rest of the day will take me. On that note, I love you. I love you so much. Thank you for so much the support that y'all have given me over at my blog, which will be linked below and here on my page. Hopefully there will be more coming. I just got to get up and do it. Yeah, so we love you. Stay out of trouble. Try and learn something new today. Go to my blog, go to Dysautonomia International, Dynet, whatever. Learn something about POTS today. And on that note, I'll see you later.